With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
A long-haul flight in the last 7 days has taken us from South Australia to the west coast of the United States in a very different surrounding as we trade Phillip Island for Long Beach. After a slightly longer break from PRL action missing out last night, we'll find that tonight who can find the speed to fly like an eagle. We will find out very shortly who's going to be able to take pole position in a very crucial qualifying session at a circuit which is not going to allow for too much wiggle room for these drivers, with balls very, very close and danger absolutely everywhere. Delighted to have your company here on RaceSpotTV for some Monday night PRL action from the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. My name is Darren Thacker, joined in the commentary box by Ron Morns for what should hopefully be an enthralling race. We've got Ramiro Augustin Chineros up in the broadcast booth making a broadcast look wonderful tonight. Ron, welcome in. I mean, Long Beach is a circuit we've been here before this season in the GT3 fixed and sprint series already, so it's not a new track for 2025 in the PRL. However, this is a circuit which demands a lot from the drivers and can be such a tricky customer.
Long Beach is a terrifying prospect for these drivers here in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. I'm just looking through the calendar. When this season kicked off about a month ago in January, I immediately outlined this 6th race of the season at Long Beach tonight as one that was going to be possibly the most petrifying for these drivers. And now that we're standing on the cusp of tonight's racing action, I gotta say, my thoughts have not changed at all. Long Beach still going to be a sketchy ride for these drivers. It's going to be fun for us in the commentary booth, but for these drivers, it is going to be a nightmarish evening.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got the likes of Motorsport, the Nürburgring, and Road America to come. A little bit of a Petit Le Mans practice about, 6 months in advance. But hey, it'll all count at the start of March when we head to our season finale. But at this point in the season, nearly 2/3 of the way through, this is how we lie in the championship. It's a bit of a two-horse race in the LMP3s, or it's emerging that way. Adam Brockway leads Mobin Khan after his win last time out by just the 10 points. That is a closable margin. Mobin is by no means out of it. Edwin Onofre is in P3 in the championship, a bit further back, 33 points or so. Would need quite a couple of big mistakes from Brockway and Khan to get himself right into contention. Zach Hebert and Victor Couto, along with Eric Leroy, all on that 180, in that 180 point range, I should say. 5 points splitting the battle from 3rd to 6th. Carter James and Jerome Bertium in the 170s in 7th and 8th, with David Stevenson and Kwok Nguyen rounding out our top 10 in the championship coming into Long Beach. Over in the LMP3 teams, it's Morat SM squad Oceana Coffee who lead the way, a decent margin of 65 points ahead of Echelon Supersport. Ignite find themselves safely in 3rd ahead of the Morat SM squad Ginger Liveries car. Satellite Racing and Solpec Precision Racing find themselves 5th and 6th with some good results so far this season, with Impact Simsport and Sart XMC really fighting over 7th and 8th, 112 and 111 points respectively. Who's going to gain the edge tonight? Tech Sport Academy and Hydro Race Geodesic Racing round out our top 10, and we'll try and be moving forward tonight. Meanwhile, over in the GT4s, And it's serial race winner Aiden Young feeling like he's running away with the championship just a touch at the moment. 21 points ahead of Arno Jeunesse, and Arno is keeping him honest, but Aiden Young's pace and superiority, it feels at the moment, looks like it's going to be difficult to beat. This is a circuit tonight at Long Beach where that could come unstuck. All-time, well actually Aiden Young and Justin Rame now tied for the amount of all-time GT4 PRL race wins, find themselves first and third in the championship. Justin Rame wouldn't mind getting himself back in the lead in that regard tonight, but it would do not too much to dent that 44-point margin that he has to Young. Christian Menez is fourth ahead of Chris Schmerecker and Cade Smith inside the top six. We've got Ken Copeland, Etten Williams, Matthew Wyckoff and Roman Foe rounding out our top 10. In the team standings, it's Satellite Racing who lead by the finest of margins out of Unit X Valhalla. Only 3 points it is at the top of the tree. Passion Sim Esports and The Wrong Stuff aren't that far apart either for P3, with the middle of the pack racing right in the middle of the top 10 in P5. WSR Esports Buttkicker and Chasing the Delta are comfortably inside the top 7 with a big gap back to the next chasing pack of Hungry Hamsters, Sartex MC and Entropy Sim Sports, who are looking to try and get themselves ever closer in their battles to get themselves towards the top 5 in the championship. But before we get going here this evening into some qualifying action, we of course have to thank the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible 5 nights a week on RaceSpotTV, starting with Logitech G. Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. Use code PRECISION5 at checkout on logitechg.com for 5% off of your purchase. Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Buttkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every single game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself into the driver's seat with Buttkicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. It's to Hedge Eye Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. This is, of course, a great addition to any sim room. And Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all of their socials to become a better driver. And, of course, we thank all of our sponsors who continue to support us here on the PRL and make these broadcasts possible to bring you the kind of exciting action we're going to have tonight. And, I mean, boy, how important is this qualifying session going to be tonight, Ron? Long Beach is not a circuit which we associate with overtaking. Track position is surely going to be absolutely critical.
Yeah, track position going to be a big thing for these drivers. Just being at the front of the field is going to be huge. If you find yourself in the mid-pack come time for the start of this race, you are going to be about as screwed as you could possibly get heading off through the first section of corners around this track. Through this, I nearly said the stadium section, not the stadium section, the aquarium section, as I like to refer to it. One of the later additions to Long Beach as a circuit. It was added back right towards the start of the 2000s when this layout was first used, and it was the late 90s where that aquarium section was built. You gotta look up. It's very odd, despite the fact that Long Beach has only really been around as a racing circuit since the 1970s. It feels like there's 14 quintillion different layouts that have been used over the years in the streets of sunny Los Angeles, California, with the view of Queen Mary in the background, and the HMS Queen Mary as well. And I remember that being a discovery that we made on the air, Dara, for the PRL Fixed and Sprint GT3 series a couple of months ago at the start of that season. But Long Beach, either way, just an absolutely historic circuit in the world of motorsports, and also one of the most visually appealing ones on iRacing as well.
Yeah, it is very much a fantastic circuit to look at, and the surroundings are exemplary. Of course, another great job done by iRacing to get this circuit looking as good as it does. In the qualifying section, though, it is looking tight at the top. Evelyn Offra looks like he may be able to steal a pole position here in the closing stages. A 10th or so ahead of Mobin Khan, who's been on pole position a fair few times so far this season, and ahead of championship leader Adam Brockway. Aiden Young looks like he has got a good chance at getting the pole position in the GT4s, which will be absolutely crucial as we watch Zach Hebert come to the line. 16.5 looks like the time he's going to be able to set, and it will be an improvement, and he will jump up to row number 4. Not exactly, I'm sure, where he'd want to be. Still an improvement all the same. I've noticed in the chat that CD has made an incredibly good point. Petit Le Mans is Road Atlanta, and you are absolutely right. I'm getting ahead of myself. Road Atlanta is in the GT3 Fix and Sprint Series tomorrow night. Of course, Road America as well will be going in 3 weeks' time. Thank you for catching me on that, because I would have absolutely forgotten that I've got them the wrong way around, so thank you. But we end this qualifying session now. We'll move in towards the race. 1 hour will be on the clock. And I mean, we saw quite a lot of battling last week. We saw quite a lot of drivers have some issues. We'll have to see how this works out tonight. But this is the starting grid for the race, I believe. Starting with Adam Brockway, who should be on the front row alongside Eben and Offra. We will double check this for you, of course. Eric Leroy and Mobin Khan on row 2 ahead of JP Alfonso and Carter James, 5th and 6th, who will make up row number 3. Will be interesting to see how those 6 go off the start, particularly from Mobin Khan going from P4. We will actually come back to that. We may have had a slight change in the order. While we wait, Ron, the qualifying is important here, but the race start can be key as well. I think the opening corner could be one where we see a lot of moves, important moves happen.
Yeah, turn 1, the heaviest braking zone around this racetrack by far. One of the premier overtaking opportunities used by the drivers both in the sim and in real life as well. Qualifying going to be super important, which is a little bit odd just based off the fact of the statistical anomaly we had at Phillip Island 1 week ago. For the first time this season, neither pole winner in both of our classes was able to convert that into a victory. Mobin Khan grabbed his 3rd in LMP3. That did not turn over to a win. Garrett Maines grabbed his 2nd pole in GT4. That didn't convert to a win either. Zane Young was able to go for his 4th in a row in GT4. So I think as much as that is a statistical anomaly, not going to be the case here at Long Beach. Qualifying uber important.
Yeah, and this is the grid that will let us get us to green in just a couple of minutes' time. It will be Eben and Off on pole. I thought it was Eben and Off on pole, but it's good that we've got that clarification. Mobin Khan will be alongside him. He's had a couple of poles to his name so far this season. In fact, he's had 3, but he's not able to get a 4th tonight in route number 6. Adam Brockway and Eric Leroy make up row number 2 with JP Alfonso and Kwok Nyin in the top 6. But Kwok Nyin already a 2nd off of Eben and Offra. Victor Couto and Zach Hebert make up row number 4 after they had some good battles last week. David Stevenson and Carter James round out our top 10 with Chris Massey and Chad Nobles 11th and 12th. Just a couple more LMP3s, I call them GTPs there, LMP3s, with Faizan Sheikh, Cameron Johnston and Isaac Gardner, the 15 drivers that we will have taking to the green flag for the LMP3s. In the GT4s, it will be Aiden Young, 4 wins in a row, looking for 5 of the best, and if he can achieve that, will take the mantle alone of the most wins in PRL GT4 history. Ayrton Williams and Roman Foe are trying to line up, well, are going to be lining up just behind him and trying to quash those hopes from 2nd and 3rd, with Ken Copeland alongside Foe on that 2nd row. The tight group continues with Eric Fenson and Chris Mareka in 5th and in 6th. There's only a couple of hundredths in each of those drivers, with Christian Menes and Jeremy Rogers on row number 4. Gabriel Gutierrez and Cade Smith make up row 5, with Michael Brooks and championship contender Arno Jeunesse having to settle for the top 12. Justin Bragan and Joseph Maley, Mike Gallant and Jeremy Manella are on row 7 and row 8, with Kurt Ham and Robert Schwenkler making up row number 9. Roy Brown and Justin Welsh are just inside our top 20, with Parker Muirhead just missing out. Stephen Tang, Joe Faroni and Travis Pruitt make up the back of row 11 and row 12, with Jeff Rosenberg, the 25th and final driver in the GT4, meaning that we have 40 cars to take to the green flag tonight, and drivers just getting themselves into work, getting their eye in. This is a race that I think is going to have big ramifications for the championship.
Oh, it is going to have huge ramifications for the championship. See, there you go. Second tries the charm for me saying ramifications on this broadcast. But it is a huge race for these drivers. Not only do you have the risk versus reward of either doing well and getting a boatload of points, or finding yourself just buried deep into the center of the earth as a result of a bad run in this race. So it's going to have a lot of weight to it as well. And plus, having this race be the 6th of 9 this season, that means after this, we only got 3 more left to go. See, I'm good at math from time to time. But the main thing to take away from that is the fact that you want to kick off the final third of this season as best as you possibly can. You want to be able to go into the final 3 races with as much momentum and as much positivity in your mind as you possibly can. So this race has a lot at stake for these drivers.
And this is going to be an absolutely thrilling one. Delighted that you're all able to join us, of course, on RaceSpotTV. We always have a great chat viewership on a Monday night. We welcome you back in once again. Of course, Long Beach is a circuit where we've been to a fair few times in PRL history. But, you know, it's going to be a really important way to get a good result tonight and get yourself towards what could be the first championship that is won in 2025 in the PRL. With the Super Bowl being last night and with the IndyCar Fixed Series not occurring last night, it now means that the LMP3 GT4 Challenge is the first series to reach round number 6. It means it will be the first series to reach a conclusion by the start of March. And so we are really talking about who can be the first PRL champions of 2025, of which you'd imagine there would be a fair few. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to get your name on the list early enough. Very nice day out here in, well, on the West Coast, as you would imagine. 1st of April in Sim, and it's looking quite nice on the ambient temperature. Clear skies as well. Wouldn't mind if this was the temperature where I was right now, Ron.
Oh, I certainly would not either. 71 degrees Fahrenheit. I was going to say 71 degrees Fahrenheit would cause me to melt. That would actually be a rather nice temperature. I was looking at the track temperature, 99 degrees Fahrenheit. That is rather toasty for these drivers and for these tires that are going to be cooking themselves over this 90-minute long race that we have coming up. That's 37.2 degrees Celsius to those who are looking for the conversion, but that either way, really hot temperatures. And as we get this formation lap underway, have a feeling that these drivers aren't going to be doing too much weaving because they've got a lot of opportunities to get those tires scorching hot between now and the checkered flag. It's going to be a pressure cooker of a race with plenty of opportunities to have your race and have your chances of doing well squandered by those menacing and unforgiving concrete barriers that line this historic street circuit there in sunny Southern California. But there's got to be a good one. The speed limit sign may say 25 here on the back straightaway, but these LMP3 and GT4 machinery are going to be burning their way around this track. There's going to be a real fun one there. I'm happy to be back on this series after I missed out last week's round at Phillip Island because of some illness, but really looking forward to be back here for a race which is going to be one of the most hectic that we have all season long.
Yeah, cannot wait. 1 hour will be on the clock. It's going to be an absolutely crucial 60 minutes for the championship. Traffic, we haven't even really talked about that yet. Traffic's going to be quite something to watch out for over the course of the hour. And with the short circuit, it's not going to take long for us to see some of that lapping occur. 15 LMP3s, 25 of our GT4s. Ready to get racing here at Long Beach for round 6 of 9 in the opening LMP3 GT4 Challenge of 2025. And we are racing here on the streets of California as it's a good start from Evelyn Offra from the pole. It's going to be a tricky run towards turn number 1 with Mobin Khan in tow as he looks for any kind of move. Nothing going at the front of the field in the LMP3s. A little bit further back there is side-by-side action, but they all look like they're just about going to make it through. And the GT4s on the right-hand side, single file as well, with Aiden Young getting a good start. He will be able to defend into turn 1 from Ayrton Williams. We see side-by-side through the fountain section in the in the LMP3s, I should say. And that's bold, that's brave. Let's see if the same will happen in the GT4s, I should say.
I will say the GT4s have already had a little bit of bumping going on a little bit farther in the mid-pack of that class. That was heading through the hairpin oh so tough at the start of these races with the big stack up that occurs, and that's exactly what happened a couple of moments ago. And you can see the drivers taking many liberties with that inside curb through turn number 5. Saw that go on with the leader at the moment of this race overall. That's still being, I believe, Edwin and Ofra leading this race still. But in all of this field, these drivers are whacking the curbs.
Yeah, taking quite a lot of liberty with the amount of pace they can take over those curbs, but they complete the opening lap, and Edwin and Ofra does still hold down the lead. Mobin Khan in tow, and Adam Brockway still being tagged along as well. These three getting a little bit away from the likes of Eric Leroy and JP Alfonso at the moment. Big gap back to Victor Kuto as well, already nearly 5 seconds from the leader to P6 after just the opening lap. With it, we are within a second of the 3 podium spots, and this could get really interesting over the course of the race. Edwin and Ofra trying to go for what I believe is his first PRL win. I will try and double check that, but he hadn't won a race by the start of the season, and I'm not sure where else he would have won a race. So he is going for what would be an absolutely fantastic result for him. Those behind him have won already, and they're in a championship battle. They're looking to battle each other. Edwin is almost a little bit in the way at the moment.
Yeah, Edwin and Ofra trying to play spoiler here at Long Beach. I will say it's a pretty good race to try and get that job done. Looking through how things have gone thus far this season, as we see how things have gone thus far in this race for Chad Nobles in the number 67 car. That was a 3-point turn, the runoff area for turn number 9 at the end of that back straightaway. Really hard corner to try and psych at as you're hitting the bumps, and that straightaway curves into turn number 9 as well. Hard corner to get right, and sadly one driver getting bit by that bullet already. But one thing to note when it comes to Edwin and Ofra grabbing the pole for the 6th race of this season, the evens have been very good for the pole sitters in LMP3. Miguel Viga won the race at Daytona, the 2nd race of this season, after starting from the pole. Mobin Khan took the checkered flag at Barcelona for round number 4 after starting this race from the pole. So here in round number 6, Edwin and Ofra are looking to keep that streak alive.
Yeah, and Edwin, well, I mean, sadly for Mobin, 3 poles, the 1 win. Edwin off trying to keep himself at 100%. On the flip side, Adam Rockway, no poles, 3 wins. So you always have to be starting on the pole. And if you're not starting on the pole, the one person who seems that they're being able to pick their way to the front at the moment this season is Adam Brockway. So he is definitely one to watch out for. In fact, I think he has all of the wins by drivers not starting on pole position. Aiden Young's not been on pole position as much as he probably would like to be this season, albeit this is his 3rd in the opening 6 rounds, but he's finding a way to win. 4 wins in a row, and after a P3 in the opening race, he has been just calm, collected. He's been impressive all the way through. All of the points that he has at the moment are wins. He's dropped the P3 because, you know, we're dropping rounds. Well, you can drop a single round in this championship, and so he is dropping a P3. But it means that he is just on scintillating form. Edwin and Ofra trying to defend him from Mobin Khan, who sets the fastest lap as they run towards turn number 1. Is Edwin and Ofra's advantage going to be cut already inside line for the 96? He's going to hold the lead, but Mobin Khan is arriving on the scene, and the 2 behind the race leader right now look a little bit quicker.
Yeah, at this point in time, Edwin and Ofra feeling a lot of pressure from the number 64 of Mobin Khan and the number 42 of Adam Brockway. Those 2 championship contenders looking to have a battle for the win all by themselves. They're thinking, hey, I don't want an Ofra involved in this battle. And Ofra's battling for P3 in the championship, so it's not like he's in a lame duck season. He's still looking to battle for wins and podiums and good results to try and get the best result in the championship that he can. But in the minds of Mobin Khan and Edwin and Adam Brockway, Edwin and Ofra is just a sitting duck. He's a thorn in their sides. You can take a look and see a collision in the GT4s heading down into the fan. That's Joe Ferrioni in the number 13 car hitting the barrier and making contact with one of his competitors entering that fountain section. But getting back to the point that I was going to mention, talking about the top 3 in LMP3, Mobin Khan, Adam Brockway want nothing to do with the 96 of an offer around them. They just want to battle for another win and battle for that championship with no one else to worry about.
Yeah, they would just like to keep it between themselves, but they're not going to be able to have it all their own way, of course. On Ofra, Khan and Brockway lead the way, and hello, this is going to be the start of some traffic already into the fountain section. the aquarium section, I think, as you referred to it as well, that we are already seeing some difficult moments. Cameron Johnson coming out of the pit lane. That car does not look like it is going anywhere near the pace it should be. And the 95 will continue onwards, but there's definitely a slight problem on that 95 car.
Yeah, something's definitely going wrong with it. Not sure whether it's some sort of hardware failure for him with his sim rig or whether that car has just decided to conk out on him. But either way, that's going to take him out of contention. But here we go, Darren. The lap traffic encounters for the LMP3 runners have now begun. We're taking a look at this replay of Cameron Johnson as he goes off the track into the fountain. But I want to note, at the start of this spiel for me, Edwin Onofre had a 1.2 second lead at the front of this field. It's gone back up to 1.2, but it's gone up by a half a second in the span of just a couple of moments. So that gap is fluctuating quite a lot at the front of the field. I'm curious, once these lap traffic encounters are done and dusted for our leaders in LMP3, how exactly the gaps are going to change.
Yeah, you can almost discount the gaps at the moment because they are going to fluctuate so much over the next 5-10 minutes as the leaders approach this pack of cars. I mean, particularly this battle for P3 being led by Romain Faux. Ken Copeland, Chris Schmerecker, Christian Menes just in behind here for 4th, 5th and 6th. There's another couple behind as well. I think Cade Smith might even be in this battle as well as they run their way through this part of the lap. Only the final couple of corners to go before we're back on the start-finish straight. But it is Romain Faux still holding the advantage as they work their way through the final corner, the ever-tightening final corner. It is such a difficult circuit to get right, and the final corner is so difficult to nail, but it's the corner that means that you can get a good run towards turn 1 and either protect yourself from the drivers behind or give the drivers ahead a reason to be worried. Chris Massey has a reason to be worried. That's because the front left side of his car is going to be looking a little bit worse for wear.
Yeah, that was a big whack into the outside tire barrier heading down into turn number 9. Not the first time we've seen a driver have an incident hang into there. Certainly will not be the last either. Turn number 9, one of the hardest corners around this track, as I believe Eric Leroy in the 444 cars had some sort of off-track excursion. He's dropping down like a rock. Not sure what's going on with him. Carter James, who are falling right now, has occupied P6 as a result of all that drama. He's running at this point in time effectively in no man's land, as you have to go about 2 seconds farther up the road to find Zach Hebert occupying your final spot in the top 5 in LMP3, as some side-by-side racing continuing all throughout this field. With these lap traffic encounters, it's going to cause this field to flare up quite a lot. Eric Leroy has dropped all the way down to 9th. I believe he was either just barely in or barely outside of the top 5 a couple of moments ago, so not sure what in the world has gone on there, but he's dropping down the running order like an anvil pushed out of a helicopter.
Yeah, there's a couple of drivers who aren't necessarily trending in the right direction right now in only the early stage of the race. Not even 9 minutes gone from the clock. Carter James looking like he's trying to make his way through the field at the moment. Zach Hebert not too far ahead as in his battle with JP Alfonso. He's looking like a tight little train as they run their way through the back of the lap. This was what we saw earlier. Victor Couto getting involved in this. Oh, and that is a horrible position to get stuck in on the outside of the corner. Eric Leroy involved there as well. A little bit of contact on the exit with another one of the LMP3s. Just a little bit messy, isn't it, down in towards the final corner?
Yeah, that final hairpin, it's one of the tightest corners in the entirety of American motorsports, and really, as hairpins go, there's only a couple in the racing world that are tighter. Really, I think the hairpin at the Macau circuit is the only one that I can think of at the present moment that is tighter. That final hairpin, it just feels so clunky to drive around in these race cars. You got cranking so much steering lock into it, it feels like you're driving around in a parking lot, which is fitting considering that with incidents like that happen quite a lot, as we're seeing that replay with Eric Leroy, and you can see the immediate tow from the GT4. Really shows you that those parking lot moments happen quite a lot heading through that final hairpin. It's so tough, and that's what caused that loss of time for Leroy and Victor Couto involved in that incident as well.
Well, it's funny you mention the parking lot, because what you can just see in the back of the shot there, where all those trucks are, one of those tents are, is actually a car park through turn 9. Oh, there's a spin. Oh! The GT4's just been turned around at the final corner. Oh my, well, there's even more drivers struggling to get on the power. I don't know whether there was contact there. That's Gabriel Gutierrez facing the wrong way.
Oh, here we
Reversing
go.
onto the racing line. Yeah, that's not what you really need to be doing. There's 3 echelon Simsport cars coming through. A GT4 and 2 of the LMP3s. That got a little bit tight. That got far too close for a few of the guys to be particularly comfortable. But everybody, I think, is about to make it through, even if we do have a couple of the GT4s having to go down pit road with the damage that was sustained.
I gotta say, honestly, Dara, I used to do race control for a pretty big multi-class sports car racing series on iRacing, and one time we were running this track, and the amount of time that I heard this one driver getting involved in incidents heading through that final hairpin, it got to the point that come time for the end of the race, they would just chime in over the iRacing radio and scream, "Toe!" into the microphone. That's the kind of thoughts that go through some of these drivers' minds as they see a car just stopped on the outside of the hairpin or midway through the hairpin. It happens in both areas, and you just see this, and it's like, oh God, please, for the love of all that's holy, don't tell me that you're going to be stopped or reversing back onto the racing line, and then you're like, oh, there, yeah, they're doing it. That's it's a feature of Long Beach. It happens in real life. It happens in the sim. It's just the way the cookie crumbles when it comes to that corner, but for drivers involved in incidents hang through that hairpin, that doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of these drivers, they know that it's a very dangerous place at the final corner. Just to be ahead of a driver, let alone behind, the misjudgments can be really affecting to your race, and we've just seen it there for Gabriel Gutierrez. Chad Nobles, I think, getting scared by the GT4 on the inside there. What was the GT4 doing? I don't quite know. I think we were maybe looking at we were almost looking at the wrong car for that incident, because Chad Nobles just almost had to dive out of the way, but that was a weird one.
Yeah, that was a rather bizarre looking collision heading down into turn number 1. I gotta say, oh boy, I'm not really sure what to say about that incident, other than that's basically what my 2 brain cells would do whenever it came time for me having to do a quiz back in my high school days. So I will just leave it at that. How I have a job is an absolute miracle, folks. But nevertheless, oh boy, that's contact being made with the number 41 car, and who was that sideways in the LMP3s trying to avoid that car as they ended up in the barrier coming out of turn number 8. That was a terrifying moment, and more drama heading down into turn number 9 with a big lockup for one of the LMP3s.
Yeah, difficult moments here as we come through the car park, inside line at the final corner on Cade Smith for a couple of the drivers. Oh, Cade Smith's going to get the driver out of the corner, though, as one of the LMP3s tries to work its way through. Actually, I believe that is Victor Couto trying to come through. It is indeed in the number 72 car, but Couto will clear Cade Smith on the run down in towards turn number 1 as we go down shoreline once again. Nearly a quarter of this race elapsed, but I mean, this race is only going to be over when the checkered flag flies, because there's going to be so much traffic. The slightest of errors that could happen at any point during this race could happen right up until the final corner. As we see what happened to Faizan Sheikh. Oh my word! Oh! That got very close indeed.
He had to pull off some matrix moves to avoid a big amount of contact with that outside tire barrier. Managed to make it work there. Oh, don't tell me he just clipped the barrier and that rear wing popped off that car like a misshapen Lego. Oh, that was so frustrating because he had got away with it rather scot-free, Dara. Went into the corner sideways with all 4 locked up, with hoping a clean race car and certainly not clean underwear as a result of that incident, but then he just clips the back end of the race car and pop goes off the rear wing. That's such a shame for Faizan Sheikh in that number 1 car, but either way, gotta get a little bit of damage on that car. Thankfully, these drivers do have a fast repair at their hands, which I have a feeling that fast repair is going to be used by a decent chunk of this field between now and the checkered flag.
A long way to go between now and that checkered flag, so still a lot of time for, I think, these Musi maiden drivers to try and get themselves into better positions. That could be happening here. Alfonso and Hebert down the inside, a little bit of contact from the front right of Hebert to the rear left of JP Alfonso. Not big contact by any stretch of the imagination, but it's allowed Zach Hebert to make sure that he can control the car and get himself into the top 4 now, and maybe try and close that monumental gap up to Adam Brockway, which currently stands 14 seconds. That's opened in just 15 minutes. So a lot of work to do for Hebert, but the man who was so consistent last season, which is how he got himself right towards the sharp end in the championship, looking for another good result. And after the last couple of weeks of good performances, he's hoping to keep up this run once again. JP Alfonso will be hoping to hang on to the back of his coattails, but it looks like Hebert has a nice little lick of pace for the time being.
Yeah, Hebert in that 511 car looking to continue some good form that he's found himself in the midst of as of late. Finished third last time out at Phillip Island, which I believe is his first podium of the season. So Zach Hebert looking to continue that momentum heading through into the 6th race of this season, following JP Alfonso in that 996 car and getting a view inside of his sim setup as it stands at the moment. Gotta say, some very cool lighting there. Looks like some lighting that you'd see on a spaceship, or that, or I've just been watching too many sci-fi movies. Either way, the 996 car currently running in 5th as it stands currently. And I will mention a little bit farther up towards the front in the LMP3 category, touching on how the gaps have developed at the front of that class. Edwin and Alfra started those lap traffic encounters quite a few laps ago with a 1.2 second lead. That's now grown to 2.9. So those lap traffic encounters, it can go one way or the other for a leader. It can either end in absolute disaster with your gap just absolutely disappearing, or it can actually grow the gap, and it looks like that is the case for Edwin and Alfra. Now 2.7 seconds between himself and Mobin Khan, as side-by-side racing between Hebert and Alfonso hang down the back straightaway into turn number 9. Close quarter stuff between these two, but Zach Hebert gonna hold on for now.
And Hebert doing a good job to keep himself inside the top 4 as we will continue on. Alfonso diving to the inside. Is he going to get the drive out of the corner? There's contact on the exit. He will get enough drive, though, to pretty much claim a side-by-side racing line. Has to duck back into the slipstream as we work our way back down the main straight towards turn number 1. But these two not leaving anything out on the table with still a long way to go in this race. Inside is being defended from Zach Hebert, not allowing Alfonso to get that inside line, and will mean that he will ensure that P4 is his through the opening turn, and in through the fountain they go. Still, nothing that Alfonso can do. But Hebert not having it his own way, and even though he's made that move, he's not able to get too far away from the 996 at the moment.
And I would like to give a correction here at this point of the show. I said a couple of laps ago that these drivers do have a faster pair at their disposal. They do not. So if they end up in the barrier, which, let's face it, we're running around Long Beach, that's not too unlikely. These drivers are going to be in the pits for quite a long time. So I'm sure at this point in time, some of these drivers are probably hoping that they fed their mechanics a whole lot of Red Bull to make sure they could get their repairs done as quickly as they possibly could, as we see a spin for the 999 of Joseph Malley. That's heading through turn number 5. Be careful on the rejoin here. That is a terrifying moment for him, trying to pull off a 3-point turn with the racing line right there. Imagine being one of those cars that was arriving at the scene of that spin. That is terrifying, as we see contact being made and the LMP3 spinning Kwok Nin around, heading through the hairpin.
Yeah, and the number 86 is, again, in an awful place, having to tow back to pit lane. That's so sad for him. Joe Ferroni pulling off to the side of the road, stopping on the circuit and then going again. Not too sure what's going on. I have to say, actually, though, Joe's got an absolutely gorgeous livery on that car. Side note, but yeah, good work in the off-season on the paint for Joe Ferroni. So sadly, we haven't seen too much of it this season, with them not necessarily being right at the sharp end of these races. But that is a great paint job on the number 13 car. This battle between Hebert and Alfonso rages on, but they continue to lose time to the leaders. 21 seconds now is that gap. And at this rate, I mean, we really have to be considering that these guys may even be coming under pressure for being lapped. I mean, it's only a 74 second lap, well, actually 76 second lap, but if they're 21 seconds off the back with a third of the race gone, they're not a million miles away off having to be thinking about getting lapped by the end of the race.
Yeah, and just based off the pace that the drivers at the north end of the field are presently showing, I can't rule that out at all. And speaking of that battle up towards the front, I think Mobin Khan slowly but surely reeling in Edwin and Alfra. That gap obviously expanding and contracting as these drivers continue to deal with GT4 traffic. But Mobin Khan certainly proving himself to be very quick at this point in this race. He's pulled a strong gap to himself and Adam Brockway, and he also holds the fastest lap of the race right now. So Mobin Khan really proving himself to be quick here at Long Beach.
Yeah, let's see how this is going to work out over the course of the next 40 minutes of the race. Christy Menes is ahead of Eric Fenson, P6, P7. This is the battle that we're looking at. in the GT4s. Oh, there's a move for P2 in the LMP3s. Adam Brockway has just made his way past Mobin Khan. The number 42 championship leader is now ahead of Mobin Khan, who was in P2. It does hold the fastest lap. We're going to have to try and see what has happened there. But there are these two. Clearly something's happened to Mobin. Maybe lapping a couple of the GT4s that you can see just in the background. But, making the move and extending a gap suggests to me that something's happened to Mobin Khan rather than Adam Brockway's forced to move.
It's a commentator's jinx for me. It's not the first I've pulled. Definitely won't be the last either, but Mobin Khan being the latest victim. Let's take a look at heading his way into turn number 8. And oh yeah, he actually made contact with a McLaren GT4. Spun around there, and look at that. Adam Brockway just coming in like a bat out of hell. And he was able to get that move done on Mobin Khan. No lifting, full commitment from Adam Brockway, but just being at the wrong place at the wrong time for Mobin Khan. That spinner and the GT4's run from him, and contact being made too. I gotta wonder what the damage situation is for Mobin Khan.
Yeah, Mobin Khan, just little mistakes for him. They've been costly so far this season, and sadly another one creeping in. Hopefully he can keep it clean to the end of the race and keep it nice and close to himself and Adam Brockway, and keep this championship battle more than alive with 3 weeks to go after this one. Of course, these guys still in tow. They wouldn't mind, a couple of the guys in the top 3 having bigger issues and helping them to close that 14.5-second gap right now as JP Alfonso gets so close to the outside wall there. I really thought he was going to, clip the rear left, I should say, into that concrete barrier, but he's just about able to avoid it as they will continue on. Battle for P5 in the LMP3s, battle for P6 in the GT4s and the insets. All the while, Edwin Offra sets the fastest lap of the race. I wouldn't have expected that after the opening couple of laps, because we're in the traffic now. Almost impossible, I think, to get a bit of clean air, but he's done that, and the 96 is extending that lead at the front.
Yeah, right as we start to say that, Edwin Offra was maybe feeling the burn from Adam Brockway and Mobin Khan. He's shaking them off like a case of fleas for now, but again, we got 37.5 minutes left on the clock, so Edwin Offra still not out of the danger zone yet, but Offra looking for certainly his first win this season, and possibly his first win ever in the PRL, which would be an achievement to do it at this track. I mean, it's impressive enough to win in this series in the LMP3s, but doing it at a track like Long Beach, that adds to the feat even more. And Edwin Offra certainly proving himself to be very fast at this point. He's now retaking the fifth lap of the race, and he's extending that gap to himself and Brockway is side-by-side racing involving Zach Hebert and JP Alfonso. These two have been teasing a battle over the past about 10-ish laps, and it looks like they're finally committing to give one us.
Yeah, hopefully so. Alfonso getting close. I really thought he was going to go for a move there. That is not a place where you make a send. And he will have to stay in behind. Well, I really was concerned there for a second. I sat back in my chair. Luckily enough, there was nothing that occurred. But JP Alfonso, he's still trying to press for a move. Zach Hebert has the advantage. And it just shows how important track position is here at this circuit, because there is really nowhere that you can make a big send. You have to be right on the rear wing. Make any kind of lunge here at Long Beach. That's a real stark contrast to what we had last week, 7 days ago, when at Phillip Island you could kind of go for a centre. It wasn't really on, and if it didn't work out, I mean, the worst that could happen is you go wide enough into the grass and then try and regain that time. But here, no such margins, and it really is chalk and cheese. It's incredible to have that kind of comparison in just a 7-day time frame.
Yeah, it is just such a contrast, and these drivers having to deal with contrast after contrast in terms of the tracks we're running at, in terms of the competitors that we've got in this series. And that's one thing to mention as well, you know, considering that I've been with the PRL for this being my first season covering a PRL action here on RaceSpotTV, I've been able to learn the driving styles for a lot of these drivers, and some of them may be a bit more conservative while others are just going for all-out glory. So even in terms of the driving styles of a lot of these racers up and down the grid, you've got contrast there as well. So really just shows you that these drivers have to be on their tippy toes and just adapt really well to any situation they find themselves in during these PRL events.
Yeah, they absolutely do. There's no real room for error. As we see JP Alfonso come into the pit, and is he just sick of seeing the back of that 511 car and wants to give himself a chance at using the strategy to his advantage? We'll see. It's early for a pit stop for this series. We often see drivers run it right towards the two-thirds point in the race, if not slightly further. before making their pit stops. And at a circuit like Long Beach, you wouldn't imagine that the fuel usage is going to be particularly high. So drivers are going to be able to really play around with where they want to go with the strategy. And I can't imagine much fuel is going to have to be pumped into the car to get themselves to the end of the race. Christian Menes is fighting with Eric Fenson again, though. P5 and 6 now. It was the battle for 6th and 7th, but all of a sudden, Fenson, the Australian driver, is making a move for P5 up the inside at turn 9. Going to get it done on the stoppers, and Christian Menes is going to have to find somewhere else to make a way through, because the final corner isn't going to be the one. It is going to be the place to really make it stick. And for the time being, the 55 is out of P5 and down into 6th.
I mean, here's the thing when it comes to getting moves done into the hairpin at the end of this lap. You can do it if you want to, in the same way that you could also try pogo sticking your way around planet Earth. It's not going to work out very well, and you're going to regret it as soon as you try and go for it, but it is possible if you try and force your will upon your competitors. Certainly not the smart call, though, to go for a move heading into turn number 11 around this track, as we're seeing one driver who unfortunately was involved in an incident earlier on in this race heading through that final hairpin at turn number 11. That was Kwok Nin in the LMP3 category. But yeah, hairpin overtakes around Long Beach, turn number 11. That is a no-go zone at all for overtakes.
Yeah, you've got to get... Well, if you can get it done at turn 11, it's likely that it's going to go very well for you by the end of the lap, and that's exactly what's happened between those two in the GT4. Last couple more pisses in the LMP3s. We only really got 10 LMP3s in the leading group at the moment. Kwok Nin 3 laps down. Faizan Sheikh, Chris Massey out of the race, along with Cameron Johnson as well. So it really is a case of the top 10 and the rest at the moment. And even saying that, there's only even 9 on the lead lap. And with Carter James coming into the box, that may become 8. So really is interesting to see how spread out that field has become. Adam Brockway into the pit lane in the LMP3. So a lot of early pit stops in that faster category. Interesting, really. It's not a theme that we generally see.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to see Brockway make that early call to come down pit lane. I say it's an early call. Technically speaking, we're only about 2.5 minutes away from the halfway mark in this race, so you can't say it's too much of a shock. Oh boy, worst time to get hiccups on the air. My apologies there, folks. But he's not the only driver to come into the pits. Eric Leroy and Victor Cueto, I believe... Actually, no, my apologies. It was some drivers a little bit farther in the back in LMP3 that came into the pits not terribly long ago. But Brockway being one of the first to make that call in the number 42 car, which is rather interesting of a move there. I'm not really sure how to make of that. I'm not sure how his competitors make of that call to come into the pits as well. What about you?
Well, I mean, let's see how it plays out. I think it's early to really call whether it's a good call or because there's still a lot of racing left to go. But it is interesting, definitely interesting to see. Oh no! Oh, and that'll be why. Adam Brockway, that's likely why he came down pit road. That was a bit of a hit. That is not necessarily a scheduled pit stop then for Adam Brockway. We'll see if he's able to stay within that kind of range for the leaders, but that is a massive hit for the number 42 car.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant whack to that race car of Adam Brockway, and I gotta wonder what sort of damage has remained on there. Reminder, folks, this series does not have fast repairs, so he had to come in, I guess, to serve a meatball flag, because, I mean, obviously, you pick up a lot of damage as a result of that. iRacing eventually gotta say, hey, nope, you gotta get that hoopty rod down into the pits, bucko, and then just drag him in. So Adam Brockway, I gotta imagine, had a meatball flag, because look at that, slamming into the side of that Mercedes, and Mobin Khan got a piece of that action as well. So Mobin Khan, his main competitor in the championship, was not immune from that incident. But either way, Brockway knocking the crap out of that GT4 car. That was a huge hit.
Yeah, and the 42 not looking as good as it once did, off the factory at least, as they work their way through. Christian Menes, one of the drivers to almost benefit from that, with Christian Recker now in the top 3, only a couple of seconds ahead of him. Aiden Young does lead the way. I was going to make a quick win, actually, that at the moment, of the top 3 drivers in this race, Ayrton Williams and Christian Recker have 2 top 5s combined. Aiden Young has 32. So, again, experience at the front of the field and a little bit of, somewhat of an inexperience at the front of a GT4 field in the PRL, slightly behind. Jeff Rosenberger going a little bit wide. and creating a bit of contact with the number 71 car running through the exit of that fountain section. And Justin Bracken is the victim in a yellow and green liveried car. You'd be forgiven for thinking that it is a little bit tropical in these parts of California.
Yeah, they got some palm trees, albeit they got a lot of stuff in California that I'm not sure really actually belongs there, as we see another moment for Jeff Rosenberger having to pull off the patent-pending Los Angeles 978-point turn in the runoff area of turn number 6. How many points has it been thus far for him? I think it was a 7-point turn. I'm not too sure. I lost count after a couple, but that was... a tough moment to have heading down into turn number 6. The runoff areas around this track, as much as they are there, you certainly do not want to use them. I'll give you a good little story, Dara, as we're following Edwin and Alfra heading down into turn number 1. One time I was running the Super Formula car around Long Beach, ended up overshooting turn number 1, tried to spin it around, I ended up grip flipping the Super Formula car. I'm not sure how in the world I did that. There's a very good reason why I'm behind a microphone instead behind the wheel, folks, because I am not good in this sim. But I still do not know how I was able to manage that.
Yeah, I can't explain that either. But that's probably why I'm not an iRacing boffin up there getting all the physics done. They do jobs that are far too complicated for me, at least. But yeah, that's impressive. That is seriously impressive, to say the least. I was going to talk... Oh, no! Oh, there's a crash. Oh, this is Victor Couto. Is that Victor Couto? No, sorry, that is going to be JP Alfonso and Zach Hebert. That's who I was thinking of. Alfonso and Hebert in towards the final corner. Surely it's going to have to be a tow here for JP Alfonso. Is he going to try and reverse it? Oh, he's just about going to. And he does it well enough ahead of Jeff Rosenberger, actually. It's a good job from JP Alfonso and gets it done, but he's got no rear wing on that car. I don't know how physical that damage is or whether it's just visual. That is not looking good. I was going to say that off that 7-point turn that we saw down in the runoff, I think it's fair to say that I could do that in 3 in my Fiesta, but I realised that these cars are a little bit clunky and the turning cycle isn't quite as good.
Yeah, I feel like if I tried to go for a maneuver like that, my 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass, that would not go down well at all, as we take a look at a replay to see that drama involving JP Alfonso. And that was himself and one of the Wrong Stuff cars, which I believe may have possibly been Robert Schwankler. I'll have to get affirmative word to see whether or not it was the driver of the 235 Wrong Stuff car, or whether it may have been his teammate Ken Copeland. I believe Copeland is in the Mercedes and Schwankler's in the McLaren. So I believe that was Robert Schwankler in the midst of that LMP3 collision hanging down into turn number 11.
Yeah, there were a few cars getting caught up there, but I think you're right, unless we get confirmation to the contrary. But we will continue onwards here in the race. We'll see what Eric Leroy can do at the moment in P3. Of course, Adam Brockway has been taken out of that top 3 for the time being. Was pit stop still in the offing for a few of these guys, so you can't necessarily count these positions as their net positions. Of course, we haven't seen a pit stop yet from Edwin Onofre, from Mobin Khan, from Eric Leroy, from Victor Couto, or from David Stevenson inside that top 6. So still a lot of positions, I think, still to be claimed. I think JP Alfonso will probably feel like he has a right to feel aggrieved there. The GT4 sticking its nose in turn 9. I mean, it's never going to make a move, and we'll lose out a lot of time down the main straight anyway. And JP Alfonso not really expecting the GT4 to stick a nose in, and probably rightly so.
Yeah, I'm curious if we'd maybe be able to take a look at another angle of that collision following the GT4's perspective and all that, and maybe riding on board with that. I still believe that was Ken Copeland, but I will not say for sure because I want to make sure as to who it was. But yeah, I think the GT4 maybe causing that incident a little bit. Moves into turn number 11. As difficult as it is to overtake into the hairpin, turn number 10, the corner leading up to it, that's not a good section to overtake as well. I've seen people go airborne trying to get some moves done and hang through turn number 11, both in the sim and in real life as well. So that is not a good corner to overtake at, as we go back to live action in the LMP3 category and see a fight going on with Eric Leroy in the 444 and Victor Couto in the 72 car. These two cars were involved in an incident heading through the hairpin at turn number 11 earlier on. They were both involved in it. Look at that. That is sketchy stuff from Eric Leroy.
Yeah, I think Roman Foe may have got a little bit of a tap there from Eric Leroy as they work their way in towards turn 9, as they will run their way through the final corner in the background. Roman Foe in that, well, I believe that's Roman Foe, with that liveried car, trying to work his way through as the battle for P3 rages, going past yet another GT4. It's Victor Couto and Eric Leroy. Side by side, Couto looks like he's got the advantage. Leroy has the inside but hasn't got the pace, and Victor Couto has got the move. He's up into P3. Can he try and pull away now and hammer home this advantage on the 444? We will see. It's a good couple of corners because that gap's open to 6/10, but you cannot be too safe in this circuit.
Yeah, you cannot be safe at all. The thing is, when it comes to these drivers attacking this race, as much as you have the temptation to maybe take it a bit easy so it doesn't crash, for a lot of racers, myself included, whenever I start to take it a little bit easy, that's when the mistakes start to pile up. Just being in the groove and pushing yourself all the time is sometimes a mindset that these drivers like to use. That could be part of the reason why, even though we are so far into this race, despite that, still have a decent chunk left to go with 23 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in this 60-minute long race. These drivers, they're still pushing it as if it's right at the start of the race.
Yeah, it really is impressive to see how the drivers are still going at it. 23 minutes left on the clock, still a long way to go really in this race. We're not really nearing the conclusion just yet. We're still waiting for a hell of a lot of pit stops right now from the LMP3s, really mainly from the GT4s. We haven't seen many of those GT4s, particularly the front runners, come in just yet. In fact, none of the top 7 in the GT4s have made their way down pit road. Kane Copeland is the leading driver to have done so, and he is down in P8 at the moment. There you can see the pit stop. So of our front runners, of the drivers, the 12 drivers on the mixed tower there, the top 6 in each class, only one of the 12 has come in. So still a lot of the front runners yet to pit, and that'll be happening, you'd think, in the next 10 minutes or so. But like I said before, with this circuit being a track where you're not going to be using too much fuel, there's not going to be a requirement for drivers to come in really until they want to in the closing stages of this race.
I think I raised this point earlier on in the season, Dara, talking about the fuel mileage that some of these drivers may be able to get with the consistent lap traffic encounters that the GT4 drivers have had to deal with and the LMP3 drivers have had to deal with as well. I gotta wonder if they're getting slightly better fuel mileage just based off how often some of these drivers are having to lift to avoid being side by side in an undesirable spot on the racetrack. So I'm curious as to whether or not these drivers are actually getting some better fuel mileage here at Long Beach than they usually would. Certainly a good thing considering the high gas prices in the state of California, but I think these drivers are actually getting a slight gain in fuel mileage here at Long Beach.
Yeah, it's a circuit where you can sometimes see that just by the characteristics of the circuit. Why we love this series is because you do get such variables. Phillip Island last week, Long Beach this week, and of course we've still got Mosport to come. That's going to be one hell of a race, and of course you cannot forget the Nürburgring and Road America to round out the season. JP Alfonso is looking like the move is going to be done on him by Zach Hebert. Zach Hebert down the inside, and that ever so slightly more royal purple is ahead of a little bit more of a Baltimore Ravens purple on JP Alfonso's car. Both look fantastic, both look pretty similar, but you can just about tell that one between the other because one has a rear wing and one of them looks like it, wouldn't get off the factory looking like that.
Yeah, that car is not looking factory fresh at all. Looks like the sort of hoopty rod that you'd see driving around the streets of Los Angeles, California, but still, he's making it work for now. Keyword being for now. I have a feeling that that will not stick for the rest of this race. Even with the lost time having to replace that rear wing, I have a feeling that it's certainly going to help out these drivers going for the Peugeot 9X8 look at the moment with that the rear wing.
Say Peugeot there.
Yes, I did.
Oh, that's fine. My European is tricked up for a second there. I'm not having a go. I'm not having a promise. But I'd call that Peugeot. But that one caught me off guard. I've never heard that one before. I'm gonna have to write that one down. But yes, no, I think you're right, actually. It is kind of giving off that kind of vibe with how it's looking at the moment. I mean, there's a couple of cars you can see it in the foreground there. One of the LMP3s, you can almost barely tell who that is because there's so much of the livery missing, the front end of the car completely gone, that it is a little bit difficult to see who that is making their way through over the bumps into the middle sector. Even with no front end on the car, they're still able to keep the pace up and work their way through on some of the GT4s at the moment, as we do see the 312 work its way through. That is Arnaud Jeunesse, of course, championship contender, trying to work his way through on the likes of Romain Faux at the moment, but struggling a touch, getting very close, nearly kissing the rear end there, and giving the cars a little bit of a tush push through the corner.
I think that may have been an Eagles reference. I'm not too sure, though. So
yes, it was.
Potentially, okay, I did catch the reference. It took me a little bit. I had to look back and look into my hands to see if I caught it or not, but I think I did. I just caught something as well. Mobin Khan just came down in pit lane in the number 64 car. He was running P2 in this race, so that's the first driver that we've seen in the LMP3s outside of Adam Brockway to come in from the lead pack of this field. So Mobin Khan making that early call to pit. I gotta wonder as to whether or not that was an on-call strategy call from him to come into the pits, or whether or not the damage he's picked up from a scrappy first half of the race could be the reason why he just came in.
Yeah, we'll have to really wait and see why the pit stop has been taken now. I mean, of course, pit stops have to be taken at some point, but not necessarily when you want to be making a pit stop, especially in the position that he finds himself in with 18 minutes to go. I can only apologise, by the way, for the poor Eagles reference there. Oh, Jeremy Rogers, what's he off to? I do not know. Maybe he's trying to find the paddock. Maybe he's trying to get some dinner, but I don't really know where he's going. But he's off the racing line and waiting to rejoin in the marbles as well, and is able to look back down the road, realise when there's a gap, and almost like he's coming out of a T-junction, work his way back onto the racing line. Still chaos on the circuit, though, with 80 minutes to go. Cars dotting the circuit, particularly at this part of the road, down towards turn 9, side by side into the corner for the GT4s and the LMP3s. Joe Ferroni having some issues as well. Oh, there we go. You can just about see it in the background. There is side by side ongoing. Is that Zach Hewitt? I don't believe it is. I think it's, in fact, it's Carter James and Victor Couto for P5 and 6 in class. They're a lap down as Joe Ferroni appears in the lens there through the final corner. But it is a battle for P5 that we're looking at in the LMP3s in the midst of the GT4s, as it is chaos at the moment.
Yeah, pure unbridled madness going on at the front of this field. This racetrack full of race cars, looking more like a parking lot at Walmart on Black Friday than a racetrack with multi-million-dollar race cars running around it as quickly as they can. Some of them acting like lawnmowers and amateur landscapers heading off through the fountain section. I gotta feel bad for the gardener that plants those flowers every single year. It's gotta be unfortunate to just have your precious flowers that you spend a lot of time growing be torn apart by a GT4 race car, decide to shave a bit of distance off their lap time heading through the fountain section. But still, this race has divulged into pandemonium. Those lap traffic encounters and just those battles in the GT4s as LMP3s are contending with them is insane. And also the amount of concrete dust up in the air, I'm surprised we can still even see this racetrack with the dust that's been flung up as these drivers scrape against the barrier.
Yeah, it'd be lucky to pass EU safety regulations with the amount of dust in the air. Probably why we're in the United States of America. Side-by-side action ongoing. Romain Faux getting involved in all of this. Arnaud Jeunesse, though, the one making the move. Important move for him as well to get himself into P9. Of course, a driver who has pitted very early, in fact, actually pitted first of all of the drivers in this part of the field. He will also overtake Chad Nobles, you'd think, who is in the pit lane. Good. Oh no, Chad Nobles, of course, in the LMP3, different class, but he will be doing well for the time being. Mobin Khan, another driver in pit lane. Once again, it's just not been Mobin's day, and is this the race where the championship just starts to slip away ever further from him? This season, of course, his drop round is from last week, which was 45 points, so he should be picking that up regardless. And with the position that he's currently in, you'd think that he may have to take that again tonight, but at least he's got those points in the back pocket. The only issue is Adam Brockway's going to be picking up 50 for the P3, so definitely more that he would be wanting to have. For the time being, it could be worse, and with still time left in the championship, there is time to gain those points back.
Yeah, we still got 1/3 of this season left to go, and the checkered flag comes out here at Long Beach. And we've got we've got 180 minutes left of racing action left to go, completely discounting the 15 we've got left on the clock here at Long Beach tonight. So still plenty of time if you're Mobin Khan to get involved in that championship fight with yourself and Adam Brockway. However, it's certainly looking good for Adam as it stands at the moment in that number 42 car. Even with all of the chaos he's found himself in the midst of right now, I believe he's going to continue his streak of finishing on the podium every single race thus far this season as it stands at the moment. So Brockway just showing a stupid amount of consistency.
Yeah, and that's what's going to win you a championship, isn't it, realistically? Particularly one with only 9 rounds in. If you have a couple of bad races, again, particularly with the point system that we have here in the PRL, if you are able to get yourself a good couple of results going and consistency up, then, it doesn't really matter if you don't get a win at all. You could finish second every single race. As long as you're finishing in second, if, the drivers that are consistently winning don't necessarily finish the races, then you're going to be in an absolute dreamland situation for a championship picture. And that's really what the likes of Adam Brockway has done. Mind you, he's won 3 races so far this season, so he's done more than just finish in second. But the consistency that he has shown has been supreme. Pitting at the moment, we saw Aiden Young just come into the pit lane. He's come out now. He's in P2 with Ayrton Williams yet to take a stop. Everyone on offer leading the LMP3s is in the box as well. 14 minutes to go. We're inside that 15-minute mark, and there's not long left. Kind of when we're expected to see our pit stops, even though we've had a little bit more of a differentiation tonight.
Yeah, we're still expecting these pit stops to arrive right about now with 13.5 minutes left on the clock. Originally 60 minutes in this race. It's absolutely flown by for a lot of the drivers up and down this grid. They've come in for their pit stops. They've had their different strategy calls. However, the 2 drivers at the front of the LMP3 category deciding that this very lap is the one that they should pit on. Edwin Onofre already out and away. He's hit that pit lane speed line. He's going to be rejoining the racetrack. And one thing to note as well is the pit exit here. It's a pit exit that has caught out some drivers in real life and certainly in the sim as well. These drivers certainly have to be careful not to pick up an unsafe pit exit infraction, because that will absolutely wreck your race.
So tempting, isn't it, to just turn left ever so slightly sooner, but you've got to wait and wait and wait before you're able to take turn 1 in the manner that you would like to. And you're right, it is close for some of these drivers, and I think I've seen it recently, in fact maybe even in the GT3 Vixen Sprint Series a few weeks ago in the PRL that occurred. This was Joe Faroni. This was when he appeared in the lens. Genuinely one of the funniest moments I think I've seen in the PRL, not really because he's done anything wrong, just because we were looking at a camera angle and he wasn't there, and then all of a sudden the number 13 was right in the frame, and that's definitely going to have to be one that's clipped up, because it's almost a fantastic little moment. But he is struggling today. It's been fair to say all the way through, down in P19, 3 laps down, but fair play to him. Still going, still looking to pick up points tonight in what has been a difficult evening. Ayrton Williams comes down pit road, and it should mean that Aiden Young cycles back to the front, but how much of an advantage will he have with 11 minutes or so to go when Ayrton finds himself out of the box?
Now, I will say, I think Aiden Young retaking this race lead is going to be rather set in stone, but let's see where Aaron Williams comes out in that number 25 car. There you can see is Carter James running 4th at the moment in the LMP3 class. There we go. Oh, and oh my God, that was Victor Koida nearly coming in for the kill on the GT4 Porsche that they were negotiating with. Koida mega sideways, heading through turn at number 9 a few moments ago, locked up all 4 to avoid contact, and worked out well for him. Aaron Williams, he is now he's still down pit lane, but he's come out of the pit stall, so he is going to find himself exiting out in P2. So Aiden Young gets a move done on him, but Aaron Williams exiting out in a really good spot as you see that close call with Koida. Yeah,
really impressive to almost keep that to the moment that it was, rather than make it too much worse there. Difficult moments. Mobin Khan still down pit lane. That meatball flag that he picked up a couple of laps ago, he's going to absolutely destroy his race tonight. He will have to take his drop round here and just take the 45 points home with him that he earned last week, but hasn't been able to stick onto his championship tally. Side by side, Evan Onofre will overtake JP Alfonso. He'll lap JP Alfonso, and what has been such an impressive drive from Edwin Offra, he's lapped everybody apart from the top 6 in this race. His next car would be Zach Hebert, but he's 21 seconds up the road. And you have to say that may be a bit of a tall task with only 10 minutes to go. Jeff Rosenberger trying to find a bit of a shortcut. You're not going to find too much down there, Jeff. And he's going to have to reverse it out of there. He's been exploring the boundaries tonight.
Yeah, that he has, and that right there, folks, is the exact same runoff area where I managed to grip roll that Super Formula car. I need to go back after we wrap this broadcast there. I'll have to go back into the archives of the stuff I've screen recorded on my computer and find that clip, because it is bizarre. But regardless, I want to mention something when it comes to Edwin and Offra still leading this race now with 9.5 minutes left on the clock. This will only be his second podium of the season. Kicked off the season with a podium at Watkins Glen, that being a P2 result behind Adam Brockway, collecting the first of 3 wins he's done thus far. But Edwin and Offra on track for just his second podium here in the year of 2025. But what a way to do it! What a way to get that second podium.
Yeah, it really has been a fantastic drive from him, and looking like it's going to be a good haul of points and a podium as well to keep himself relevant in championship aspirations. 74 of Justin Welsh having a bit of an issue, but waiting his turn to get back onto the racing line. Smartly done, not getting himself involved in what could be a further incident, and making sure that it is all nice and safe. Eric Fenson, Ken Copeland, battle for P3 ongoing. You'd say that it's going to be difficult for these guys to catch Aiden Young and Ethan Williams, who are a long way out in front, and it could just be between these two for the final step on the podium. Eric Fenson, after we've left his homeland of Australia last week, trying to still get a P3.
And I'd actually like to amend a statement that I was making earlier on about an incident heading down into turn number 11. It was not Ken Copeland involved in that. I knew it was a wrong stuff car, but it was not the number 15 Mercedes of Ken Copeland, because it was a McLaren wrong stuff car in the midst of all that. But regardless, taking a look now at a replay of an incident involving Jeff Rosenberger. This heading down now at the end of the back straightaway into turn number 9, exploring the runoff area of that section right now, and getting a good view of the Acura barrier. You can also see you don't really hear about it too much, but there is a slight amount of elevation change here at Lime Rock Park. You can, that's a different track in the U.S. Long Beach, Lime Rock Park, about as far away geographically and otherwise that you can get in terms of racetracks in America. But either way, a little bit of a sleeper track in terms of the elevation change, but Long Beach actually has a decent amount, as you can see with that shot we saw of Rosenberger running wide into the runoff area of turn number 9 a few moments ago. That little wall that you saw was the height difference between Shoreline Drive, which is the location of the start-finish straightaway, and turn number 9. So a little bit of elevation change to note here at Long Beach, which is a little bit surprising considering it's right by the beach.
Oh, it absolutely is. But therefore, you therefore would suggest that may be why we have a little bit of that elevation change, because we are rising directly out of the Pacific Ocean. Of course, very built up here, of course. There's a lot of development that is here in southern LA on the coast, but that is why you get a little bit of elevation change here at Long Beach. I'm very thankful for you, though, for now taking the mantle of having the worst confusion between two circuits. I got Road America and Atlanta confused earlier, but Lime Rock and Long Beach are about as far away as you can get. But I wouldn't mind a race around Lime Rock in this series, to be honest. Thinking about it, that could be fantastic.
Oh, Lime Rock, I absolutely adore Lime Rock. I may be a little bit biased since I'm an East Coast guy, but Lime Rock, a wonderful racetrack. Some of the most exciting iRacing events I have ever covered have been at Lime Rock. I think that track should get a bit more use. I mean, it was a little bit of a running joke in the sim when I first joined the absolutely ancient scan of Lime Rock back in the day, but they got the new scan in. The track is absolutely wonderful, and it does hold some sports car racing. IMSA does run up there. Actually, I say did run up there. I believe they've swapped out the IMSA events for some NASCAR events, which you'd think, being the America on the show, I'd be happy about that, but I'm a bit I mean, NASCAR did used to run at Lime Rock back in the day, back in the late 90s and early 2000s. I think the Busch North Series, which is what it was called back then, used to run at Lime Rock. But Lime Rock, a wonderful track. It'd be really cool to see these LMP3 and GT4 race cars end up running around there. But for now, we're at Long Beach, and these drivers are trying to give us some battles to talk about in the final run to the checkered flag.
And not long left to go now here at Long Beach. It's been a fantastic evening and a really important evening for the championship. So many drivers looking to pick up some big points, but we are within that 5-minute mark before we see the checkered flag fly. And what a race it's been from Evan Onofre. He's got a 40-second advantage to Adam Brockway. And yes, I know there's been issues for the likes of Brockway, for Leroy, for James. Onofre's kept himself out of all of those problems, and he's never won a PRL race before, at least according to the numbers that we are provided. Never won a PRL race. To have a 40-second advantage at a track like this, absolutely incredible.
I gotta say, if I'm honest, and certainly my experience may not hold a lot of weight to it, because Dara, you've been on this series a lot more than I have, but Edwin Onofre has proven himself to be a rather quick driver in this series. Now, he's battling for P3 in the championship. As you can see, a big crash with Romain Foe in the number 17 McLaren, currently running P10 of the GT4 racers, dealing with some GT4 runners around him, and just getting shown the door coming out of turn number 5, result in him hitting the barrier in a pretty big fashion as well. That's some major damage on the left front of that car. But anyways, Edwin Onofre really being quick in this race at Long Beach today, which is really... It's odd, because as you said, he hasn't grabbed a win in the PRL this season. So him coming out here and just blowing the field to pieces is a very impressive performance. I don't want to give him the trophy yet, though, because we've still got 3.5 minutes left to go. Anything can happen and then, but it's looking very good for Onofre. And even if he doesn't win this race, if he doesn't seal the deal, it'll still be a mightily impressive performance for the driver of the number 96 car.
Yeah, and actually, Evan Onofre last season, back into 2024, was a part of the GTP GT3 series. He finished third in the championship there behind Pat Pelchat and Nathan Ray. After the opening round of the season, and after round 4 didn't go his way, he finished in 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, and 4th. 7 top 5s in 9 races, finished P3 in the championship, but really good consistency. 7 top 5s in that GTP series. He's only ever had 3 LMP3 top 5s in PRL history, looking for his 4th and his first win in the LMP3s, and what is, I believe, overall in any category in the PRL. So the number 96, we don't want to, you know, hand him his flowers just yet. But he's got, I believe, 3 laps to go now. Yes, it will be 3 laps, including this one, to get himself to the checkered flag. And all he has to do is keep it clean from here on out, because he has half a lap of an advantage over the rest of the field.
Yeah, at this point in time, Edwin Onofre going out for a Monday night cruise here. His headlights are coming on, despite the fact that the tire temperatures and the track temperatures have been scalding hot all throughout this race. He's been calm, cool, and collected. One driver hasn't been, as Victor Coito, as barreling into turn number 1 with most of the back bodywork already gone, probably for sale on eBay by the time he had that collision heading off into turn number 1. But Edwin Onofre has been faultless thus far. I believe he's coming to 2 to go this time by, but Edwin Onofre on track for a dominating win.
Yeah, Hebert and James, the 2 Echelon SimSport drivers, 4th and 5th. Decent night for the team. I think they'll be pleased with how it's gone. All things considered, making moves through the field, from Zach Hebert, really been impressive to see. Gerrit Leroy being 10 seconds ahead with only 2 laps to go, maybe a bit of a tall task, as Edwin Onofre sets the fastest lap of the race on lap 45 of 47 in this race, a 1:14.697. The next fastest lap in the race is a 15.9 from Zach Hebert. That is absolutely stunning from Evan Onofre. And for a driver who doesn't need to be taking any risks or pushing the car too hard, he is really showing what he can do at the moment.
Now, here's something important, Edwin. Don't stuff it into the wall trying to improve on your fast lap. You've had a flawless race. You don't want to throw it away right towards the end. But, you know, he's been faultless thus far. He is definitely in a groove in that number 96 car. So I doubt very highly that is going to be the way the race ends for him. To have the comfort to just say, hey, yo, I'm at the end of this pit stint that I'm in at the present moment. Coming to the checkered flag in a few minutes' time. may as well just go out and set another cooker of a lap time. Why not? Edwin Onofre just in a league of his own here at Long Beach. Think of who he's going to be beating by 40 seconds. He's going to be beating Adam Brockway. Granted, Brockway has had a pretty rough race here at Long Beach today, but Brockway already has 3 victories thus far this season. And if it wasn't for that incident, though, that we saw Brockway involved and hang through turn number 1 and that early pit stop that came as a result of all of this, I still think this would be a dominating win for Edwin Onofre. I don't think it'd be 44 seconds dominant, but it would still be a rather sizable cushion for the driver of the number 96 car. But at this point in time, dealing with some traffic is essentially on his victory lap.
Impressive drive from Edwin Onofre. He is coming towards the final half of a lap now in what has been a dominant display. A driver who was so close so often last season in the GTP series on a Thursday night at the back end of 2024. He's moved over to a Monday night into these LMP3s, and he nearly won the opening round of the season. Wasn't quite able to get it done then, and has stuck around and has been there or thereabouts all the way through up to this point. It's his moment now, though. He's going to come around the final couple of corners, and he's going to see the checkered flag first. What a drive it's been from Edwin Onofre. He has been the class of the field, and the number 96 Tech Sport Academy comes out of the final corner, and for the first time in his PRL career, he sees the checkered flag first, and Edwin Onofre is your winner tonight here in round 6 of 9 of the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, Season 1 of 2025, and Edwin Onofre dominates the streets of Long Beach, and I'm sure he's going to be absolutely thrilled. In the GT4s, it's a same old story really. Aiden Young is leading the field. He's looking for 5 in a row, and when he's able to come to the line as he rounds the final corner, it is 5 of the best for him. He takes the mantle alone at the top of the all-time race winners list in the PRL for GT4s. Aiden Young is just so dominant. 24th GT4 win in the PRL. Absolutely incredible, and he is going to be thrilled, I'm sure, extending that championship lead. And really, the case is, who can catch him now?
I'm not even sure if Light could catch up to Aiden Young at this point, because he has been blisteringly quick. His 5th win of this season, and not just his 5th win, his 5th win in a row. Aiden Young has just been in a league of his own thus far here in 2025. Got to take his 5th win, but in the LMP3s, it's Edwin Onofre taking the checkered flag.
Yeah, what a way to win. 45 seconds in a 60-minute race. Absolutely stunning from Edwin Onofre to win the race. For more on the Sam Squad Oceanic Coffee, they lead the team's championship, and you can somewhat see why. 2nd and 3rd for them. Good day with both drivers on the podium, and not much to split them either. Zach Ebert and Carter James, the only other 2 drivers on the lead lap. The top 5, the only drivers on the lead lap, and Echelon Simsport again. Good day for them. They'll be happy. JP Alfonso a lap down along with David Stevenson, with Kwok Yin P8 3 laps down. Urban Khan and Victor Couto inside the top 10, but 5 laps down. Urban Khan likely to take his drop week this week after scoring what I believe will be the lowest points he has this season. Chad Nobles was 9 laps down ahead of Faison Sheikh, Chris Massey and Cameron Johnston, who all 3 of those drivers struggled to get very far off of the line a long way down the order. In the GT4s, it was Aiden Young who won his 5th race in succession. He was able to beat Ayrton Williams in a Mercedes-dominated front of the field. Ken Copeland was 3rd for the wrong stuff ahead of Eric Fenson in the end. That battle went right to the line. Chris Schmerecker and Cade Smith rounded out the top 5 with Michael Brooks and Arnaud Genest. Arnaud Genest, championship contender, of course, recovering from a poor qualifying to P8. Christian Menes and Roman Foe rounded out the top 10. I'm sure Foe's going to be disappointed after qualifying on the front 2 rows, but he still managed to get in the top 10. Jerry Manella, Gabriel Gutierrez, Robert Schrenkler and Kurt Ham were all a lap down, and all in the McLaren in the top 14, with Parker Muirhead running at the top 15, 2 laps down. Stephen Tang and Travis Pruitt, a duo of Porsches, found themselves 16th and 17th, 2 laps down, with Jeremy Rogers, Joe Faroni 3 laps down, and Justin Welsh 6 laps down in P20. 5 more drivers to run you through, and they are Justin Bragg and Mike Gallant, Jeff Rosenberger, Roy Brown and Joseph Maley. None of them had the easiest of evenings and were quite a ways down the field. But at the end of all of that, it's fair to say that it's been a good evening's worth of racing, and I'm delighted to say that we can talk to our race winner in the LMP3s. Edwin Onofre joins us now. Edwin, welcome in. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we've been given would say that this is your first ever PRL race win. How do you feel?
I felt many things during a race. I felt heart pumping because my heart was aching really a lot. Then I felt calm as the race progressed. A little infuriating at some of the traffic, but it's not their fault. They were just taking their normal lines, or they just wanted to survive this race, and I can understand that. But man, I don't know if this might be my first PRL victory. GTP series last year, it might have been for the victory at Silverstone. I could be wrong about that too. But I'd like to say that this win was an official first ever for PRL because I absolutely put on a clinic over there by over 40 seconds from P2. And man, I love this combo. I love the LMP3, and we were able to make it up right here in this race.
You absolutely did. I did have a quick look at that during the race, actually, of last season in that on the Thursday nights, and you got 7 top 5s, but no wins. So I do believe that I do think this is your first win. But either way, it's a fantastic way to do it here at Long Beach. Does this give you confidence going into the next couple of weeks? Of course, we've got Mosport coming up next week. That's going to be tough. The Nürburgring as well. Do you think you can carry over this form and maybe get a couple of wins in a row?
Probably not in a row, but absolutely there's a lot more momentum coming into the next weeks. I do love most sports. Not too sure about the last 2 rounds, but Long Beach was one of the rounds that I know that I can win it. I was telling myself earlier, to quote Eminem, if you had one shot, one opportunity, would you seize it or let it slip? And I took it. I got it. I gotta give an apology to one GT4. I unintentionally punted earlier at the hairpin. It was just a little bit of a checkup situation. I think that was just a race incident, but I will still apologize regardless. But still, this was an incredible opportunity to compete for PRL and to get a first win in PRL nonetheless. Thank you for Tech Sport Academy for helping me with the driver representation. I do appreciate them so much for the continued support. And I'd like to give a shout out real quick to my Twitch chat for being there with me as we were in this race. And honestly, it was a lot of pressure trying to get this victory too in front of them. But I do appreciate, like I said, their continued support.
Yeah, well, Edwin, congratulations once again. Win here at Long Beach and in that dominant fashion. We'll see you in 7 days' time. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Off of their race winner in the LMP3s. He wasn't, well, I was going to say he wasn't very far ahead. Of course, he was miles ahead of Adam Brockway, who finished in P2, but for the championship leader, still a decent result. Adam joins us now. Welcome in, Adam. I mean, the car, visually, to us up in the booth, didn't look fantastic, but how did it feel towards the end of the race?
It was not good. You know, I really didn't expect to finish where I did. You know, I knew it was Long Beach and anything could happen. So after that initial contact, you know, I had a lot of steering damage and didn't have a front end. So I pit early just to see, you know, what type of repairs I was looking at, and just take off whatever I could with the max fuel. So I mean, it wasn't good. It was about a half second to 2 seconds off pace. But somehow, you know, with the ups and downs of racing and the, you know, Long Beach's chaos, I was able to snag second.
But with a points gain again on Mobin tonight, with a double podium for the team as well. What's the mood like for yourself and the team going into Mosport next week?
You know, I'd really like to, you know, say we'll clinch, you know, all the podiums up there. We have good set. We have a lot of time at Mosport. You know, it's probably one of our best tracks as a team. So, you know, 1, 2, 3 finish would be really nice for us.
And we will wish you all the best in doing that, Adam. But championship leader once again extending that championship lead. Not quite the win tonight, but working out nicely. And congratulations. We'll probably speak to you next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Okay, then P2 man in the LMP3s, just about ahead of his teammate Eric Leroy, who's back onto the podium this evening. Eric, welcome in. Great evening for you. How are you feeling after a podium just behind your teammate as well?
Thank you. Yeah, mixed feelings. Good to have the Miranda Sam squad double podium there. Can't say enough about how much I appreciate my team and what they've been able to teach me. Yeah, podium's always good, but there were definitely some things that I wish I could take back. I have to apologize. I mean, there were a couple of GT4s that I misread their entry. I went in on the inside, and then they were planning on coming back to the apex, and it didn't work out. The beginning of the race wasn't going so well, but I just kept digging and was lucky to gain some positions.
I mean, but the traffic looked like it was difficult to manage tonight. Of course, Long Beach, there isn't really much room for error. It's going to be somewhat similar at Motorsport next week. How difficult was the traffic, and do you think you can try and, as we were talking to Adam, saying that I think you and the team have a good setup for next week, do you think you can try and manage that effectively in 7 days' time?
Yeah, we're gonna get to work. Traffic's always tough, but today especially, this track was especially tight and narrow, and a lot of beehives of cars that we had to navigate that weren't easy. Yeah, most sport we're looking forward to. We enjoy going there. We have good setups for that, and yeah, we're gonna work on traffic for sure.
That's good, Eric. But congratulations again, back onto the podium here at Long Beach, and we'll see if we can speak to you in 7 days' time again after Motorsport.
Thanks, guys.
Eric Leroy then rounding out the podium in the LMP3s. That means we can now chat to our GT4 race winner, and this is going to shock you. It's Aiden Young, 5 times in a row now for him in the 427. He now has the has the solo record for the all-time race wins in GT4s in the PRL. He's been gaining on Grass Rame all the way through the season. Now is ahead. Aiden, welcome in. Congratulations again. I mean, how do you just keep this pace up week after week?
Thank you. First and foremost, I have to thank my team. I couldn't do it without them. They back me, they support me each week. They've helped make me into a pretty quick driver, and I feel like I keep getting quicker each race, but also I keep getting smarter each race, and that's a key factor. It's what is helping me keep this up. So yeah, without them, I wouldn't be able to achieve these results.
Looking forward, of course, hoping to wrap up the championship Motorsport next week. Quick word on that circuit. One are you looking forward to?
Oh yeah, I love Motorsport, but I have a feeling Justin Ream's gonna be back, and Canadian, home track, he's gonna want to win. But I think if Arnaud's quick there, he's also probably gonna want to get the win as well, because another Canadian home track for both of them, so they're gonna put in the work for sure. But it should be fun. That track's just a lot of fun for me. I've always loved that track, no matter what the car, whether it's an LMDH, whether it's an LMP3, whether it's Porsche Cup, any car around there, you name it, it's a fun time for me.
That sounds good. We look forward to it heavily, and yeah, you're going to have your work cut out, but another win tonight gets you ever further ahead in the championship and gives you that bit of a buffer. So well done, Aiden. We'll hopefully speak to you next week.
Thank you. Yep, I will see you guys next week.
Young then, ever present in the broadcast booth after the race with the run of wins he's on. Second place though was Ayrton Williams. Great result for Ayrton as he can join us now. Welcome in, Ayrton. Good result for you. I mean, in the championship, this will really move you into a nicer position. You came into this race P8. It's your second top 5 of the season. It's your best result of the season. How are you feeling?
Yeah, really good. Long Beach is a track that I love. Regardless of the result, so it helps a bit. But yeah, a P2 is very good. Aiden was just too quick today, like he's been most of the season. Yeah, I'm happy with this though. This is good. This is a good building block. I've had pace pretty much most of the season, but I just haven't used it, and I've caused incidents and stuff like that. So this is a good way to start building on this and hopefully building towards a win. Hopefully at Motorsport, but sometime this season, hopefully a win will come my way, and that's the plan. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the race. I had a couple of pretty close calls. I think got nudged a couple of times by LMP3s, but that's Long Beach. It's a tight track. It's hard for them to pass. They're going to make the moves when they think they can. So I'm just happy that I brought it home in P2 this time and not losing a position or anything. So that's the main takeaway for me.
Yeah, and exactly. And after, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your home race last week at Phillip Island, is it nice to come to a different circuit and go to Motorsport with aspirations next week after a P2 here?
Yeah, I think I would have been well on for a podium with my pit stop strategy at Phillip Island, which is probably the most disappointing thing. So I came here hoping that I could really put a good race together, and I'm pretty happy that I was able to stick with Aiden for a fair bit, but lost it later on during traffic. But yeah, I'm happy now. I'm building towards the top 3 pretty much every race, and now I've got a P2. I've got to start building towards those race wins and start really pushing Aiden. That's my plan.
And well, congratulations again, Ayrton. Fantastic result for you. And hopefully we'll get to speak to you next week again if you can replicate the feat.
Yes, very much. Thank you, boys.
Ayrton, for joining us. Great to speak to Ayrton Williams after the race. Sadly, we're not going to get a word from our P3 finisher. But in the end, that means, Ron, that we can start to wrap up what we've seen tonight. Been a really fantastic evening's worth of racing. I will also note that, just to give a perspective on how global the PRL is, for a moment there, the four of us up here in the booth, one of us covered all four hemispheres of the globe. So PRL really showing how international it is. Ron, I'm looking forward to next week at Mosport because it's going to be a circuit where we've seen races around before. It can be tough, but it's a little bit more open, a little bit wider. Definitely one that's going to be critical for the championship again.
Yeah, that is going to be a super important race. These drivers looking to kick off the final third of this PRL championship season as best as they possibly can. Mosport, as you mentioned, complete night and day difference from Long Beach here tonight. You're going from the tight, twisty confines of one of the newer tracks on iRacing in terms of the way it looks to one of the oldest scans still in the service right now. So this is going to be a good one. I am really looking forward to the next race to the championship in Mosport. I don't know about you, but it's going to be a good one.
I cannot wait. Hope that you can join us in 7 days' time here on RaceSpotTV for the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. Don't forget, tomorrow night, the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series gets back underway, along with your Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday night action once again before we roll back in for this fantastic series next Monday night. Thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight and watched along as well. My thanks to yourself, Ron, Ron Mons, who's been alongside myself, Darren Thacker, up here in the broadcast booth. We've had Ramiro Augustin Chineros on the broadcast booth, getting some fantastic photos for us all. But we will see you in 7 days' time. We hope you've enjoyed the race here tonight. It's going to be even better next week.